Hello, and welcome to Freedom Through Astrology, where we're giving you the keys. This week's forecast is going to come in two parts because of how much is happening. This is the weekly forecast, part one for the week of July 20th through 2026. July 20th through 2026. I've rehearsed that too many times. I'm still messing it up. This is going to be the long transits and ending transits. And when I show you the weekly forecast and you see how much is there, you'll understand why. As I said, this is Freedom Through Astrology, where we're giving you the keys. I am your astrologer. My name is Donald Patak. Contact information, standard YouTube copyright, and no, my content may not be used to train AI LLMs unless I'm appropriately compensated. Keys to the reading, part one. I use what is called constellation-based astrology, also known as true sidereal astrology. This is astrology by the visible sky and the way the ancient astrologers used to practice it. Ancient astrologers used to be astronomers. Tropical astrologers freeze the sky at around 200 AD, where Aries is at 0 degrees on the horizon, and basically want to live under the Roman Empire. I cannot understand. I used to read it, and I don't understand the logic behind it now. Nonetheless, I am practicing astrology as an ancient astrologer would. And using the visible sky, there are 13 signs. The missing sign is a fucus, which is the symbol is of a person holding a snake by the head and tail. The snake symbolized knowledge in ancient times. So when you're holding a snake by head and tail, it's controlling or using knowledge. And according to the mythos, the gods trained a fucus, also Asclepius. I'm looking for other mythos on this. To heal wounds that they had so they could heal others with similar wounds. That's the ideal. I do use the natural size of the constellations. There are some astrologers who will try to force every constellation to be the same size. They're not. If you actually learn astronomy and you go outside, you will find Virgo huge at 49 point something degrees or something like that. She's huge, just under 50 degrees. But constellations like Aries, Cancer, Libra, Scorpio, Fucus, individually, each one of those is less than 25 degrees. So using the natural size of the constellations, they're all over the place. Mother Nature makes things perfect. We don't need to mess them up. I do not use the IAU boundaries. Those are arbitrarily drawn and can take stars from one constellation and move them into a different one. Athens Shementi noted this with the border of Scorpio and Ophiuchus, where stars from Scorpio are shoved into Ophiuchus. So he looked at the zodiac belt, last bright star of Scorpio, first bright star of Ophiuchus, what's the midpoint, and then did that with all the other constellations. I find it to be more accurate. I don't know if you can see this on my shoulder right there. This is my kitten, Mittens. She has been insisting on being on my shoulder most of the day. I had two cats pass on this weekend. I think they ate poisoned mice, sadly. So she has been very clingy to me. Keys to the reading, part two. I interpret using what's called evolutionary astrology, meaning these transits are lessons for you to learn. And within that, you have freedom of choice. You can choose how you're going to work with these opportunities, take the high ride, take the high road, take the low road. You have freedom of choice, and you can always change the road you're on. This is the weekly edition, so these are universal lessons, so do have some compassion on your fellow Earth travelers. Date and time are based on the Eastern U.S. time zone, as I live out of Buffalo, New York. I'm operating within 1 degree of exact because that makes it manageable. Transits like this week's, if I were to show you using wider orb, is what they call that, would be completely overwhelming for me, and you'd get lost. The software I'm using is Capricorn by Prometheus. And all my interpretations are my own. There are astrologers who are now turning things over to AI. I refuse to. I write all my own forecasts. I do all my own interpretations. I will look at my books and notes for guidance. However, at the end, what I write is what I believe to be accurate. So let's get our summary for the week. We do have an interesting, very busy and interesting week. Like I said, this is the week of July 20th through 26th, 2026. That's pretty cool. Our sun, we begin the week in Gemini, and on Monday, it will transit into Cancer. So welcome to Cancer season. The moon is busy this week. It will begin in Virgo, and then about halfway through the week, it goes into Libra, Scorpio, Fucus, and will end in Sagittarius. So the moon is actually, it starts out stable, but then gets busy in the second half of the week. We do have the first quarter moon in Virgo on, that is not supposed to be, it's supposed to be the 21st. It's on Tuesday. I thought I changed that. My bad. At 6:49 in the morning. That's wonderful. Our active planets. On the inner planets, it's the sun, and the outer planets, we have Jupiter and Uranus being our active planets. Our sign change we did talk about. We do have the sun entering Cancer. And our long transits, which is what we're going to focus on this week. Neptune and Pluto, Uranus with Neptune and Pluto, Chiron with the south node, and we'll be adding the north node in this week. And in our retrograde parade, we do have Mercury retrograde, and we will be adding in this week Saturn in addition with Neptune and Pluto. Joys. Okay, let's go to our next slide. Oh, good, my picture does fit in here. There we go. Now, everything above this dotted line is from last week, and that I never read the nodes in opposition, but I do read transits to the nodes. And as you can see, that is an incredible amount to cover. And if I try rushing through all of this, I did try to get it into one. And when I watched it, I felt it was very meaningless. I didn't get anything out of my own reading, honestly. So this first reading, this first video is going to cover the outer transits, and then we're going to hit the inner transits. Oh, we do get one of our infamous exact points. Right there. Neptune sextiling Pluto, we will have one of our exact points this Saturday. So do expect Saturday to be a little intense in that reason. If we do look at our week overall, we do have Monday and Tuesday are kind of quiet with the exception of the sun entering Cancer and that first quarter moon. Everything picks up Wednesday and builds into a crescendo. Sunday being the busiest day with all these transits going on. So let me clear this. Let me clear actually, I'm just going to delete that. So what I'm going to cover in this first video really is this part up here. So we're going to look at the transits that end, and then the second video we will cover all this new stuff. So let me delete, close, end the show, go here. Okay. Okay, Mittens, you need to be very careful, please. I'm going to begin with my long transits, and then I'm going to go to the transits that will be ending this week. So our Jupiter transits, we'll be starting with the Neptunian and Uranian transits, and then the Chiron South Node. I will then proceed to the Mars and the Jupiter transits. So let us begin with, I'm going to begin with, let's see, I'm going to go by my notes. Neptune in a sextile to Pluto. And I did try to do like the individual slides for these, but again, my hand went numb. I'm still dealing with the injury to my index finger. My hand still went numb. Okay, that's just the cats in the pantry. Yes, I live in an old style farmhouse, and I do have a pantry, and my cats are all huddled in there. So we do have Neptune in Pisces, sextiling Pluto in Capricorn, both retrograde. Retrograde means it's a time of reflection. Neptune in Pisces. Don't just do something, be there, be present. Are you being present and in this moment? So reflect on that. Is that what you are doing? Sextile is a sense of interest and excitement. So as you're reflecting on that, how is that helping create an interest in your doing the work? Pluto is about transformation, in deep healing and releasing deep soul wounds. And in Capricorn, it's doing that work. So as you're learning to be present and aware, how is that creating an interest in doing this work of deep soul healing? Reflect on that. Are you able to be present so that you can do this healing? Now the shadow here, Neptune in Pisces, is just lost in fantasy, living in fantasy land, out in La La Land somewhere. Pluto in Capricorn, instead of healing, falls into cynicism, nihilism, reinforcing these deep soul wounds and living in isolation and loneliness. So literally, as you're living in the fantasy land, sextile becomes a sense of nervousness, jitters, and this fuels more soul wounds, leaving you feeling alone and isolated in your little fantasy land. Okay, so we covered, I'm just going to check these off. Now we're going to go to, I have Uranus in Pluto, or in Taurus, sorry, in a sextile to Neptune in Pisces. Now, Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is teaching you individuality and authenticity. And in Taurus, you're learning to make it more natural to yourself. You're also finding that inner peace, inner calm, and strength. Remember, Taurus is the bull. It's a strong animal. So you're learning to find a peace and strength that comes from being your authentic self. And that creates an interest in spiritual reflection. As you're learning to be yourself and find that peace and calm and strength that comes from that, how is that helping you to be present and in the moment and connecting to your higher self and being in touch with even that spiritual realm? The shadow here, Uranus in Taurus, Uranus, instead of being an individual, you are selling out to the expectations of others, whether that's acting out in that pointless rebel, pushing buttons to get a reaction, or selling out to fit in, trying to be a square peg in a round hole. And in Taurus, that's out of laziness, or it can be the bull in a china shop response. And that sextile, again, is a sense of nervousness, and that is fueling this living in a fantasy. If I try to fit in, people will accept me. No, they won't. And by acting out in this pointless rebellion, pushing people's buttons, you're living in this fantasy that you're actually being true to yourself. You're not. Okay. And then we do have Uranus in a trine to Pluto. So again, as you're learning the strength and peace that comes from being your authentic self, how is that supporting the work, in the inner work of healing and transformation? So as you're becoming authentic, this is helping you to heal deep soul wounds, and it's supporting that. The shadow here, again, as you become this eccentric individual who's pushing buttons and acting out like a bull in a china shop, or you're selling out trying to fit in out of laziness, that support becomes a slippery slope downhill. It makes a big mess fast. Trines are easy energy. Little energy goes a long way. I get the hiccups. My cat's got sneezing and's got a cold. So when you're acting out or selling out, that is supporting deep wounding to the soul, fueling cynicism, nihilism, and leaving you with deep soul wounds, living in loneliness and isolation. So we hit that, we hit that, we hit that. And now, there it is. And we now have, I'm going to clear that out. We have Chiron in Pisces. In a trine to the south node in Leo. Now, the key thing here is actually the south node of the moon is the triggering planet, even though it's this calculated point. The nodes of the moon, their orbit is actually, I think it's around 18.6 years, if I remember off the top of my head, versus Chiron's orbit's about 50 years. So really, it's the nodes of the moon, your destiny and your purpose are triggering this opportunity to heal. So with the south node in Leo, South node I read is how you hold yourself back. You're becoming more. The ideal is you're becoming more of aware of how you hold yourself back with the shadow of Leo, which is what? Childish egocentricity and pointless drama. So as you become aware of this drama and how you're holding yourself back, and it's a healthy thing to become aware of, how is that supporting your ability to heal on a spiritual level and even release those wounds, even understand the situation from a higher perspective? Okay? Now, the shadow here, the South Node in Leo, instead of becoming you're aware of it because you're living it. You're reliving and rehashing those old pointless dramas of the past. And that is supporting, instead of you healing, you're wounding yourself more deeply. And you're trying to, potentially on a spiritual level, and doing whatever you can to try to escape the pain, numb the pain, and just living in this idle fantasy that maybe this isn't even happening. And so there's that. So those are the long transits. That's this cluster right here. All done. Now we're going to cover these other ones. And I'm going to do these. I'm going to close this out really quick. Okay, I need to. I'm hoping to make sure I'm doing these in some sort of order. Nope, I want to do it that way. Okay, so Neptune, Pluto, Uranus on Jupiter. So what I'm going to do is actually move this here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to start with the one that ends first, and then we're going to do Jupiter. So we're going to start with, whoops. We're going to start with Mars sextiling Saturn. Now, Mars in Taurus is having the courage to calm down, be still, chill out even. Calm the savage beast, and it's having the courage to do that, the courage to chill out. A sextile is lousily drawn there. I'm not even, God, that's horrible. I'm not going to try erasing everything. There we go. Sextile. Sextile, we said, is an excitement or an interest. Saturn in Pisces, maturing spiritually. and maturing, becoming more skilled in your spirituality. And I never preach religion. You've got your own connection to the divine. This is about you growing and maturing in your own personal connection to the divine, whatever your religious and faith practice is. So as you're having that courage to calm down, how is this creating an interest in spiritual maturity? The shadow here gets dominated by deep-seated fear. I think the only thing that would be worse if we had a transit to Pluto in this somehow would make this worse. But Mars falls into fear, and that can come out as anger. It can come out as cowardice. So, and in Taurus, that can be out of laziness, just easy to explode and have a temper tantrum and be the bull in the china shop. Or it's just, you know what, just I'm just going to cower away, let people bully me because it's the lazy and easy way out. Sextile becomes a sense of nervousness. And instead of maturing spiritually, Saturn falls into fear. It can be a bit of a control freak. Saturn can also, let me grab my notes here really quick because it just slipped my brain. Saturn can fall into cynicism and pessimism as well. Yeah, there we go. Something speaking to me from my note sheet again. Yeah, despair, self-pity, control issues. This I sometimes will say Saturn in Pisces can be religious fundamentalism. So as you're falling into this fear, you're trying to control spirituality, impose your will on other people, and it just doesn't work out. Okay, let's clear all drawings. That's what I was looking for, is the eraser. So now we're going to cover the Jupiter transits. We have Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter teaches you opportunity, inhabiting your highest potentials. And, yeah, and I do like to call it opportunity. In Cancer, you're learning to rest. This is rest. This is nurturing yourself. This is self-care and taking care of yourself, and even having people take care of you. Sometimes we all need that. So we're going to start with Jupiter in Neptune. Oh, that's even the way I have them listed, I think. Yep. Jupiter in a trine to Neptune. Like I said, this is a support. Neptune in Pisces, we did say, you know, don't just do something. Be there, be present, be spiritually aware, be in the moment. So as you're learning, as you're taking that opportunity to nurture yourself, to care for yourself, to take a rest, how is that supporting your ability to be spiritually aware and spiritually in the moment? And this can help you gain contact even with your higher self. The shadow here, Jupiter falls into a crisis of confidence, and this can be overconfidence, this can be underconfidence. And in Cancer, it becomes defensive. Now, defensiveness can come across with, remember the crab's got claws, sniping at people and taking swipes at people. Crab can also pull itself into its shell and try to hide away and be invisible. So I would say overconfident is taking snipes at people. Underconfident could be trying to hide away. I can see the other argument as well. And we said a trine is a support. A little bit of energy goes a long way. High road, and in the low road, Neptune in Pisces is living in illusion. It's self-illusion, self-delusion, falling and living in idle fantasies. So as you're falling into this crisis of confidence, you wind up living in this fantasy that somehow you're protecting yourself, somehow you're saving yourself from something. You're not. You're just hurting yourself, potentially hurting yourself more deeply. Now, next ending, we will have Pluto in Capricorn. So as Jupiter is learning to calm down and rest, nurture itself, and take care of itself. Reflect. How is that helping you with the inner work of healing and transforming the soul? I forgot to block that up. Yep, that's fine. There we go. Now, how's that helping you to nerd? How is that helping with the inner work of transformation and healing the soul? The shadow here, we talked about the crisis of confidence and defensiveness. This leads to a power struggle or an imbalance with Pluto in Capricorn that's deeply, instead of healing yourself, you're deeply wounding the soul, reinforcing the wounds. And this can fuel a sense of loneliness and isolation, which just feeds that crisis of confidence. I mean, this is a self-feeding loop in a way. And then on Saturday, we have Jupiter in a sextile. There we go. To Uranus. So again, taking that opportunity to inhabit yourself through rest and calming yourself, through rest and nurturing and self-care. How does that, bless you, how does that create an interest in your becoming the more authentic version of yourself and finding the peace and strength that comes from that? The shadow of that is that crisis, like I said, that crisis of confidence that falls into being defensive, fuels a sense of nervousness that leads to you either acting out to pull out a reaction from people or selling out and trying to fit in. Both can be seen as defensive. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to be and do what I want. Or okay, just as long as you leave me alone and I don't get pushed around, have to get pushed around. Well, you're being pushed around anyways. But that fuels that sense of nervousness. That really fuels a loss of confidence in you being who you are. And there is that. So we've covered all that. The last thing I want to cover in this is we do have that moon in Virgo. So that will be going through the early part of the week. The moon is your emotional self. I do like to say that that's your soul. And in Virgo, the aim of Virgo is self-improvement. So it's becoming more emotionally intelligent, becoming more skilled with with the expressions of your emotions. So look at how you are updating your skills in emotional intelligence and look to accept responsibility when it arises and to become more skilled. The shadow here is the moon becomes moody and emotional and irrational. And in not Capricorn, I'm sorry, that's the other. Capricorn and Virgo are my two GSD signs. Get stuff done. If you want to get something done, talk to a Capricorn, then talk to a Virgo. It'll get done. In Virgo, the shadow of Virgo is perfectionism, that unrealistic expectation. And you can drive yourself towards that and push yourself towards something that you just not going to achieve very quickly or very easily and just become moody about it. Or you're just going to give up and quit. And why bother trying? So be careful of descending into that perfectionism, which can fuel feelings of being overwhelmed and also fuel feelings of worry and have you just feeling that you're less than who and what you really are. And those are all those transits from last week. And I'm going to jump back to here. It's quite a bit to cover, as you can see. I am going to save this video, post this video, come back and report this second half. So do follow me on social media. You're watching this on YouTube. I am also on Facebook and Instagram where I post my daily deep dives on the new transits. And I'm happy to announce that the Digital Soul Space is moving to a donation-based platform. These are free because you're giving them their data. You're giving them your data for free, and they're selling it and making mint off of it. Digital Soul Space is hosted by on the Mighty Networks, means your data is protected, and you can decide whether you want it shared, how you want it shared, etc. We also, I call this the bully-free zone because we have 4 great monitors that prevent bullies from even getting a foothold. Somebody posts something that they shouldn't, it's taken down and they're spoken to. I can't remember the last time we had that happen, but it is a great place to hang out. I do astrology. We have a daily tarot lesson being planned. So if you're curious about tarot, you can go into there and read these little explanations what the different tarot cards are. But I do astrology on there along with other astrologers. There's tarot, different oracle decks, mediumship, a wide variety of spiritual practices, and I can't tell you everything that's on there, but there are many incredible spiritual practices. And if you're not sure on something that you're interested in, ask a question. Someone will share an answer, and they'll share what they know. It's a very friendly place. I do offer astrology readings. If you want to see how your chart changes between tropical astrology and true sidereal astrology, true sky astrology, order the quick six quick points. If you want to know what your birth contract is, your birth chart in evolutionary astrology is your birth contract. It's not who you are, it's who you came here to become. Can help you understand that. I also do a karmic or a past life reading, which is based on the nodes of the moon. If you want to know why certain events keep happening in your life, I can help you understand that, what the archetype is. I'll give you a story on why it could have happened. And then, even more importantly, just as important as understanding it, I can help you understand how to heal it. And then I do horoscopes. 1 year, any 12 months in a row, any 3 months in a row, or any 1 month. And the 1 month can be new moon to new moon. It can be first of the month to last of the month, or any 30-ish days in a row. I do have some packages available, and my summer hours, which make me available in the afternoons, Tuesday through Friday, are available now through August 28th, 2026, with a few exceptions for professional development for school. So I thank you very much for watching part 1 of this week's transits. Do like, follow, and share, and sign up for the newsletter. All I need is an email, and you get a once-a-week newsletter detailing all this information. Other things that I don't necessarily share in my forecasting or go into explore more deeply. And then if I do, and all my newsletter subscribers do get a personal discount on readings. Thank you very much. Like, follow, share, sign up for the newsletter. Remember, in the visible sky, your life changes. Have yourself the best possible week, and do watch part 2, which will be the new transits.